Church. It is yet another time that we come together to worship the Lord. The buildings are closed, they are locked, but the Church of Christ is still there. And so we continue worshiping God. And so I welcome people to worship with us, those who can access us from Twitter, from Facebook, from WhatsApp, to worship with the AIC Mumbuni. Today I want to speak about trials and integrity, maintaining our integrity even in difficult times. And our text is Job chapter 1, verse 8 through 12, and also chapter 2, verse 3 to 10. This is a difficult time for all of us. The whole world is facing a difficult time. They are faced with the difficult times. And everyone is actually afraid of what may happen the next moment. Some people have been quarantined. Others have lost their jobs, temporarily if not permanently. Others actually lament the social distancing. Others yet have been infected with the disease. And still a number are already dead. During such trying moments, will the Christian keep his or her integrity? I'm addressing Christians. Integrity is defined by the Cambridge English Dictionary as the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. It also defines it as a state of being whole and undivided. The Longman Dictionary defines it as the quality of being strong and honest about what you believe to be true. And I summarize in my own words that it is maintaining high moral standards, high Christian standards, keeping our Christian ethics. The Bible talks of a man who faced a hard time in his life. He went through difficult times, and yet he maintained his integrity. This man was Job. And we are going to see three important things that Job did, that he was able to maintain his integrity even during trying moments. The first thing that we are going to look at is Job's trials. Then the second thing will be Job's reaction to his trials. And the third thing is God's response to Job's reaction to his trials. Job's trials, we look at Job chapter 1, verse 13 through 19, and because of time we will not read. And so I encourage whoever is listening to me to be able to read Job chapter 1 and chapter 2, and also chapter 42. The first trial Job goes through is that of losing his wealth. He lost his wealth. He was a very wealthy man. The Bible says he was the greatest man in the East. And he had accumulated a lot of wealth, but it also says that he was a God-fearer. He shunned evil, and he was an upright man. So he lost his wealth, and the first thing he loses is 500 oxen and 500 female donkeys. And he lost them to the Sabians. And this was a tribe living at the southwest part of Arabia. The Sabians attacked the servants who took care of the oxen and the donkeys. They killed them, and they took the animals, and only one escaped to report it to Job. And when he was just reporting, another one comes to report again. Actually, one commentator has said these calamities came in rapid succession. They were following one another. 7,000 sheep were struck by lightning. And it must have been terrible to lose 7,000 sheep at the same time, in verse 16. Then verse 17, he loses 3,000 camels to the Chaldeans. And the Chaldeans were people who are living at the southern part of Babylon, actually the southern part of modern-day Iraq. Then, as if that was not enough, all the wealth is gone, and now he loses his family. The next thing is his family. And first he loses his children. And Job is said to have had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he loses all of them in one day. A strong wind hit the house where they were feasting in their elder brother's house. And 10 of them died because the house collapsed on them. And only a servant escaped to report it to Job. Just like in the other cases, one servant would be left to report to Job what was happening. Psychologists agree that there are 3 losses which mankind find hard to bear: the loss of a spouse, the loss of a parent, and the loss of a child. For Job, it was the loss of all his children. It was not just a child, but 10 of them. And at this, we find that the pain was unbearable. That Job tore his robe, he fell to the ground, and he did something we are going to see soon. The second thing, he loses his wife. His wife did not die, but his wife did not give Job the moral support he needed at this time. She kept some distance. I think she was tired of all these losses, and especially after losing the children. And later on, after Job lost his health, the wife could not stand this. And therefore she asked him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." So it's like he has lost his wife. There's no moral support. Next, he loses his other relatives and friends. There were only 3 friends who came to visit. And being the greatest man in the East, he must have had so many friends. But 3 came, and a 4th one is seen at the end of the story. But the others are not found there. But at the end of the book, the very last chapter, Job, chapter 42, verse 11, is when we find other relatives he had. It talks of his brothers and sisters. Maybe, of course, brothers and sisters could extend even to his cousins and uncles. But they came at the end. When he had gone through all the trouble, they were not there to console him. And therefore they come when God has already restored him. Actually, when there was food, the Bible says they came and they ate together and they comforted him. And they each gave him a silver coin and a gold ring. Where was all this when Job was suffering? He had lost the family. Then next, as if it was not enough to lose all the wealth and to lose his family, Job loses his health. In chapter 2 now, verse 7 and 8. Physical health, he lost it. The Bible says that he had sores or wounds. Some translations say boils, all his body. From his feet to the sole of his head, he had wounds. And if we agree, actually, that boils or wounds or sores, whatever, they can be very itchy and painful. And it was necessary for Job to get a piece of pot to scratch himself, because there are places you cannot scratch yourself easily, like the back. So he needed something to scratch himself. His hands were not enough. It must have been very painful, and it brought him very low. His 3 friends, actually, the Bible says, when they came to console with him, when they came to comfort him, in chapter 2, verse 12 and 13, they saw him from afar, and they could hardly recognize him. He must have looked terrible. He must have looked terrible with this disease. Then psychologically, his health was also affected. Psychologically and or social health was affected because he lost his respect and dignity. A man who was the richest and the greatest man in the East now is reduced to nothing. He has lost all his wealth, he has lost his friends, and he has lost his health. And now, instead of sitting at the comfort of his sitting room, he is brought so low that he goes either to the kitchen or to the gate where he used to sit and reason with the other elders, where there was ash. And then he was pouring this on himself and scratching himself. That is where he was sitting. Today, people are asked, stay at your homes and be safe. Stay at your homes and remain safe. But they are complaining. No, this is like being in a prison. No, how can we stay at home? And so many have been taken because they cannot stay at home. They cannot keep the time of the curfew. They just cannot reason enough to say, let me remain at home and be safe. If God had told Job, stay at home, you will not lose your wealth, you will not lose your family, you will not lose your health, Job would have gladly agreed to that. And I'm sure he would not have complained. But we are complaining. Look at this man. When these 3 friends came to visit, they sat silently for 7 days and 7 nights without saying a word, because they saw the pain through which their friend went. They could not imagine how this suffering was. And yet, the Bible says Job kept his integrity. The second thing is Job's reaction to his trials, verse 20 and 21. The first thing Job did, especially when he was told that he has lost all his 10 children, he fell to the ground, he fell prostrate, and worshipped God. He worshipped. This is not the reaction we normally have. When we are told you have lost this and this, we start crying or asking, why me? And all this. Job fell to the ground. He lay prostrate and worshipped God. He said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will go. He said, the Lord has given and he has taken. In other words, Job was saying, I came naked, I didn't bring anything into this world. God gave me everything I have. Even children, even the family, all the wealth, even my health. And now, it is him who has taken. Before he had given, I had nothing. Now if he takes, I'm okay. He worshipped God. That is a man of great integrity. A man of integrity. He accepted his situation. He did not blame God for what he was going through, and he maintained his integrity. He did not lose himself. The third thing, which is the last one, is God's response to Job's reaction to his trials. God looked with favor to Job, and he spoke well of him. Actually, he accused or he rebuked his 3 friends and told them that they did not speak well of him like his servant Job did. And he continues calling him my servant Job. He was well pleased with Job. That is God's response. I'm pleased with my servant Job. The other one, he blessed Job. He blessed him with more than he had blessed him before. More than he had given him before. At the beginning of this year, someone composed a song and they said 2020 is double-double. I don't know, maybe that will be realized later. But for Job, it was truly double-double. He lost 500 oxen and 500 donkeys. He receives 1,000 oxen, 1,000 donkeys. He lost 7,000 sheep. He gets 14,000 sheep. He lost 3,000 camels. He receives 6,000 camels. He lost 10 children, and God restores his children. He has 10 other children, just like they were 7 sons and 3 daughters. Actually, this time, the story is different because even the daughters' names are mentioned. Jemima, the firstborn, Keziah, the secondborn, and Karen Apuk, the thirdborn. And the Bible says Job's daughters were the most beautiful women in the East. Are we going to maintain our integrity as Job did? The media is talking of violence, saying that violence is on the increase, domestic violence. Why? Because a wife cannot face the husband. There is violence. The husband cannot face the wife. They cannot face one another. Because they were used to going to job and each one going their way, they meet their weekend, they are busy back to work. Parents cannot even face their children. The other day I heard of parents saying, we want our children to go back to school to do their exams. They cannot stay with them at home. Where is our integrity when things have changed? When we have to stay at home together? Even as I talk, I know there are people who cannot worship together on Sundays. Even though our pastors have been encouraging us, sit as a family and worship, and they send us the program to follow. Many people are not worshiping as families. Why? Because husbands cannot face wives, and wives cannot face husbands, and the children cannot face the parents. Parents cannot tolerate them. And so we cannot continue like this. Where is our integrity as Christians? May the Lord help us to keep our integrity even during such trying moments like Job did, and he was successful at the end. May God bless us all. Shalom.